Isn't it true on February 10th that you ordered the bribery case against the mayor be dismissed? And I quote your letter to then acting U.S. Attorney Sassoon, without assessing the strength of the evidence or the legal theories on which the case is based. That's what you said, correct?
The determination was based on the policy considerations that I've outlined and did not rely on
By your own written admission, though, you failed to assess the merits of the case and ordered that the bribery charges dismissed entirely for these reasons, so he could campaign.
That's not true, Senator. That's inaccurate. I did look at the evidence, and that's why I spent extensive time reviewing the case file, meeting with the prosecutors alone, meeting with them, with the defense counsel. In the department's decision-making, we chose to proceed based on the policy determinations that I've outlined and not the strength of the evidence or concerns about the legal theory.
In your letter to then acting U.S. Attorney Sassoon, you ordered her to drop the case because you were, quote, concerned about the impact of the prosecution on Mayor Adams' ability to support, end quote, the president's immigration agenda. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. When you appeared in court to file your motion to dismiss, the court stated that your efforts to dismiss the case were unsupported by any objective evidence and, quote, fundamentally incompatible with the basic promise of equal justice under law. Is that what the court said?
I don't recall the court saying that at the hearing that I attended. To the extent the court wrote something like that in the opinion, that was an opinion that granted the motion. And I think that context is really important, Senator. The context is that Rule 48 doesn't require the department to provide any evidence. It requires a non-conclusory explanation by the prosecutors of the reason for dismissing a case.
Okay, well, let's go over what Hagen Skoten, who was he was the lead prosecutor on the case. Is that right?
I think that's right, yes.
Decorated Iraqi war veteran, clerked for then Judge Kavanaugh on the D.C. Circuit, and then Justice Roberts. In his letter, he says that Damian Williams' role in the case somehow tainted a valid indictment supported by ample evidence and pursued under 4 different U.S. attorneys. This was your reasoning because you said you felt that the former U.S. attorney somehow tainted this case. But yet, as Hagen Skoten pointed out, it was pursued under 4 different U.S. attorneys. He said that this reasoning is so weak as to be transparently pretextual. Why do you think he said that?
So I'd like to begin by just confirming that I respect Hagen's military service and his public service. And the fact that we disagree on this particular issue is not meant to disparage him in any way. However, the department filed a brief explaining and elaborating on the basis for our motion. In that brief, we outlined private communications and comments on documents by the prosecutors, including Mr. Skoten. One of those communications, private communications, Mr. Skoten said that he found it plausible that Damian Williams proceeded based on political motivations. So what he said publicly is not consistent with what the trial team was thinking privately, contemporaneous with these events.
Okay, I will again go back to the fact that I don't think that the reason that someone is running for office or is has some policy agreement or disagreements with the administration should be a reason to bring or dismiss charges. And he also added, no system of ordered liberty can allow the government to use the carrot of dismissing charges or the stick of threatening to bring them again to induce an elected official to support its policy objective. He then ended, as I'm sure you realize, he ended with, I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me. So my concern with what happened here, and then also with the decision to fire January 6 prosecutors, is basically the same. I am a former prosecutor myself. I ran the biggest prosecutor office in our state, and every single day you're confronted with issues of ethics, and maybe you know someone you're prosecuting, maybe someone knows someone you're prosecuting, maybe they agree with you, maybe you don't, and you have to make a decision based on the law and the facts, and not on whether or not they agree with your administration. And when I look, we heard from, yes, Chairman Grassley, 2 more sentences, when we heard from former prosecutors who were dismissed because they'd simply done their job in looking at what happened on January 6th. I just think it's part of the same threat. It's politics over the law, and it should be law over politics.
Senator Moody.
It's a good thing I wasn't holding that gavel. Good to be with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you to your family for being here.
What Senator Klobuchar exposed in that hearing isn't just one bad decision. It's a symptom of something far bigger and far more dangerous. When Emil Bove admitted that his reasoning for dismissing charges wasn't based on the evidence but on policy considerations, he pulled back the mask on how justice can be manipulated for political convenience. Think about it. If the Department of Justice decides that a mayor accused of bribery shouldn't face trial because it might interfere with campaigning, what does that mean for the rest of us? Everyday Americans don't get that privilege. If you're facing criminal charges, you can't walk into court and say, "Sorry, I'm too busy with work," or "This would interfere with my life goals." Justice doesn't work like that for regular people. But apparently, for powerful politicians, the rules are different. And this isn't just about Eric Adams or Emil Bove. This is about precedent. If prosecutors start dropping cases because politicians are too important or too busy, then we're creating a two-tiered justice system, one where the elite and well-connected skate free, and another where everyone else bears the full weight of the law. That corrodes trust not only in the courts, but in democracy itself. Klobuchar's questioning also highlighted how these dismissals tie into a larger pattern: political interference in prosecutions. We saw it with attempts to downplay the January 6th attack, with prosecutors being pressured or outright fired when they pursued uncomfortable truths. And here again, the same logic. Politics first, law second. That is fundamentally incompatible with the promise carved into the Supreme Court building: equal justice under law. And let's not forget the warning from Hagen Scotton, the decorated prosecutor who helped lead the bribery case. His words were crystal clear. No system of liberty can survive if the government uses charges like bargaining chips, dropping them when it needs political favors, reviving them when it needs leverage. He called it out as transparently pretextual, and that's what Klobuchar zeroed in on: the fact that Bove wasn't arguing Adams was innocent, but simply politically useful. The danger here is long-term. If this becomes the norm, then justice stops being about right and wrong. It becomes about who you know, who you serve, and who you protect. That's how democracies slip into oligarchies, when institutions designed to safeguard fairness are weaponized to shield power. What Klobuchar was really saying is this: law has to be above politics. If we allow politicians to escape accountability simply because prosecuting them might be inconvenient, then we're essentially giving them a blank check to abuse power. And when the courts themselves warn that these dismissals are fundamentally incompatible with equal justice, it should send a chill down all of our spines. Because here's the truth: justice doesn't bend for convenience, it doesn't pause for campaign rallies, and it doesn't excuse corruption just because the corrupt happen to hold office. Either the law applies equally, or it means nothing at all. That's why this moment matters, not just as a debate in a hearing room, but as a test of whether Americans are willing to demand that justice be blind, not biased. Klobuchar made the case, but now it's on us to keep the pressure alive. If you believe that no one is above the law, not presidents, not mayors, not political insiders, then make sure you're subscribed to Liberal Lens, because we'll keep shining a light on the places where politics tries to suffocate justice. Our democracy depends on it.